Okay, now let's say hypothetically that the algebraical letter x stands for something. Precisely what that something is, you don't know. You don't know anything about it. Some people say that the algebraical letter x has certain defining characteristics. However, they've got no proof of this. All they've got is other people's speculation. So, you still don't know what the algebraical letter x stands for. You can say that the x exists, or at least the letter exists. You can say that the sound exists. You can say that people's speculation as to what x actually is exists for them. But that's more or less as far as you can go. You can have a look at people's speculations as to what x could be, and then you can try and attack those particular arguments as to what x could be by demonstrating, either through legitimate means or through intellectually dishonest methods, that such a thing could not possibly exist, thereby proving, at least within the confines of an argument, that x does not exist. But unfortunately, what you would have done is you would have proven that a certain assessment of x doesn't exist. And that's a certain assessment of x in terms of certain semantics, certain words, certain phrases or phraseology or method of expression as to what x could actually stand for. But if we don't actually know what x is, all of those arguments and all of those debates are completely thrown out of the window. And absolutely every single one of them. Likewise, to go the other way and suggest that here is something which seems to have some kind of connection with something that someone had written about this concept called x. Therefore, this may possibly be proof that x exists, therefore x exists, in accordance with the definition that someone else has written down, is also completely flawed, because we don't actually know what x is or what its defining characteristics is. There is just a whole set of complex different ideas, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. As a direct result of this, through the standard means of debate, so to speak, as present on YouTube, if there was talk about this thing, this x, quite frankly, we could not actually get anywhere and could neither prove nor disprove the existence of this x. What we could do is say that, okay, I live in a certain country. In my particular country, we have a concept that is x. The wonderful thing about this particular concept of x is that it is quite well defined. As a result of that, we can have a look at some of the various definitions, and we can then go through the universe and try and prove through means which are intellectually honest or intellectually dishonest to prove that this thing, this x, does not exist. But that would of course be intellectually dishonest. Why would that be intellectually dishonest? Because you're basing it upon the views of a culture and not basically upon what the concept of the x, what the x itself actually is. So, trying to work out what this thing is would actually be completely and utterly impossible. Now, some of you out there are probably already getting roughly what I'm driving at, and that is the God debate. Basically, it's a complete heap of rubbish. No matter which side you're on, whether you're trying to prove the existence of God or whether you're trying to disprove the existence of God, because you don't know what God is. The word God has been defined and redefined by the cultures over the eons in completely different ways. There's no one fixed meaning to the word God anyway. Now, if we just put all of those things aside, and I mean all of this kind of like, I can prove it, no you can't, I can disprove it, no you can't, kind of discussions, and just throw them all away, what are you left with? Come on, what are you actually left with? Absolutely nothing. If this X, if this God thing does exist, you don't know anything about it. We don't know anything about it. There's no book in the whole wide world that would know anything about it. Not even this one, okay? If we don't know something, we might as well just be honest and say we don't know it. Some people say the God debate is important. I don't think so at all. Maybe the views of people are important, maybe politics is important, and maybe to a certain extent the beliefs that people have are important. But so far, there's no completely right answers, and there's no completely wrong answers, and there's no singular one way of life which should be prescribed for absolutely everybody on the face of the planet. So why do you do it? Bottom line, why do you do it? Why do you actually bother to try and prove the existence of God? Why do you actually bother to try and disprove the existence of God? Because even to try and disprove the existence of God, if God does exist or doesn't exist, is a complete and utter irrelevance. It's a concept which is unknown. And if it is completely and utterly unknown, then basically screw it. What we could do is try and be a little more honest, and we can try and discuss beliefs. Not a question of your beliefs are crap, my beliefs are cool, because that's just another way of dividing society. We can try and work out what the intellectual benefits or the emotional benefits of different varieties of beliefs could be. Whether these are beliefs in things which are real, or whether they're beliefs in things which are not real. Remember, we all believe in something which is intangible. There's justice, there's mercy, there's joy, compassion. These things have no solid physical basis. They don't physically exist. We act as though they are things which are important, worth protecting, worth looking after. But yet, they don't have a physical existence. But what about other beliefs? Like belief in certain ideas from Christianity, or certain ideas from Judaism, or certain ideas from Islam. Just go through it, try and work out which ones are the good ones, which ones aren't quite so good, which ones are healthier for society, which ones are less healthy for society. Do some extra research into psychology, sociology, and the way that the world works, and try and build up a picture as to how you could use things from religious cultures that would actually do people some good. And let's stop all this rubbish about he exists, he doesn't exist, he exists, he doesn't exist. I mean, fucking hell. Now, you might consider it to be a bit of a misrepresentation to draw a parallel between things of a religious nature and other things such as justice, but essentially we believe in justice in a very similar way to a lot of people believe in their forms of God being. You know, it's an emotional, moral force which has the capacity to drive us in one way or another. And that's what higher powers or spirit beings or gods often do for people. They are intangibles that have an effect upon the way that we wish to act, or the ways in which we see the world, if we choose to. And yes, the meaning of each and every single theological concept will vary from individual to individual and from time to time. If you were to ask yourself, does justice actually exist? You would probably be forced to say yes. That just as the great author Terry Pratchett suggested in one of his stories, if you were to grind up every single molecule of the universe, would you be able to find one single atom of justice? And if you are an atheist, ask yourself, do you believe in justice? Not as a personal God, because lots of people who are religious don't believe in a personal God either, but let me ask you, do you believe in justice? There are plenty of people who are Christians who do not engage with God in a personal way. They engage with God in the same way that you would engage with justice. Maybe you could be asking yourself, are you really an atheist? And yeah, I think we do have to discuss the subject of harm. Some people are anti-theist because they feel, they believe, that religion does harm. But does religion do harm, or do people do harm because of their misinterpretation of the concepts within their religion, or because they wish to act politically, and as a result of that, they're going to actually screw up and they're going to use religious ideas to try and control people? Remember the milligram electric shocks experiment, for those of you people out there who are studying psychology or have some knowledge of it. What is it that human beings do? What is it that we tend to do? We tend to obey authority figures. Why is it that some nation states in ancient history persecuted people who are of a different religion? Because they had a different, higher power. But these days we don't have that problem because we live in multicultural societies and everyone considers themselves to be part of the nation. I mean, I live in Britain, there are people of every different colour and hue who lives in this country, and they are all British and they all follow different traditions, but they are all still British. So essentially we don't really have that kind of an issue now. Admittedly, there are individuals from various different traditions, often of the more extreme variety, who do things which are a bit silly. And as a result of that, bad things do occur. Are these the majority? Statistically speaking, are these the majority? Bottom line, no. And what about the writings in the various holy books? There's good stuff in there and there's bad stuff in there. Are they all justifications for warfare? No. Are they all justifications for persecution, witch hunt, rape, murder, and other nasty things? Certainly not. These subjects are actually really rather broad, not narrow. But the extremists on both sides of things, the extremist theistic individuals and the extremist atheistic individuals, make a very big issue of something which is not a big issue. So why don't both groups just grow the heck up? It's almost like I can hear some of you people out there saying, yeah, but what about you, Nick? You're weird. What do you think? If you choose to believe or if you choose to disbelieve, to be quite honest, I really don't care either way. Bottom line, try and do the next right thing.